Engage for Success Radio, raising the profile of employee engagement and shining a light on good practice for people who believe there's a better way to work.
Hello and welcome to Engage for Success Radio and show number 603 in our weekly series. Engage for Success is a not-for-profit movement and the UK's leading voice on the topic of employee engagement. We're out there raising awareness and running events through our area networks right around the country, and our topic and sector-specific thought and action groups are developing research, publishing case studies, and highlighting all the best practice that's going on out there. To find out more, please visit engageforsuccess.org, and while you're there, why not sign up for our weekly newsletter to make sure you never miss out on any of our excellent free resources, events and updates. And I'm Andy Gorham, your host for today's show and the founder of Bezuglova, an employee engagement and culture change consultancy that helps growing organizations become stickier from the inside out by helping them attract, keep and develop great people. And today, we're exploring one of the most pressing challenges facing organizations, the rising tide of employee disengagement and burnout. Global engagement rates remain stubbornly low, and burnout now affects nearly half of workers worldwide. The cost to individuals is clear, but the hidden cost to organizations in lost productivity, strategy execution, and innovation is just as damaging. Now, leaders and organizations today are often caught in a difficult balancing act. Do we prioritize efficiency at all cost, or do we build workplaces that remember the humanity that lies at the heart of work? It's that tension between efficiency and humanity that sits right at the center of today's conversation. And joining me to unpack this is Dr. Marina Bezuglova, a PhD in medicine, certified coach, an expert in customer and employee experience. Marina has held senior leadership roles internationally for more than 20 years and has written extensively about well-being, burnout, and human-centric business. And she now helps organizations build well-being focused, human-centered cultures that really drive sustainable success. And she's also the author of Balancing on the Edge and Finding Serenity Amid the Chaos, and brings unique perspective that bridges neuroscience, psychology, and of course, practical leadership. So that's plenty for us to get into today. So let's get straight into the conversation. Marina, welcome to the show. It's lovely to have you with us.
Hello to everyone, and I'm happy to be here and talk about such a meaningful and important topic.
It's just a huge topic as well. There's so many things that we really could cover today, but I would like to start, Maria, if I may, with your own journey. So you began your career in, I think, market research,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And so what brought you from that world to writing about burnout and all this human-centered transformation of business that you now deal with on a daily basis? Tell us that story.
Yeah. Actually, I did not come to the topic of stress and burnout through theory. I came to it through life, and I began my career in medicine and then spent more than 20 years in senior leadership roles in international research companies. Um, Actually, I loved my work. I built strong teams, I built strong business, but everything changed when my company entered a major transformation, and the division I led was put up for sale. That's when I truly understand what a merger and acquisition means, not in theory, but through my own experience.
Mhm.
And for more than a year, my team and I lived in constant uncertainty. And I quickly realized that people can't just keep working when they are in survival mode. Stress doesn't just create discomfort, it blocks our ability to think, connect, and perform. And that was a turning point for me. I had to become a different kind of leader, not only focused on performance, on results, but also on holding the emotional climate for my team. Became a necessary strategy for this particular period.
Mhm.
Eventually, we made it through. We kept the business, we kept the team, but that crisis also changed me personally. I trained as a coach, earned a degree in psychology, deepened my mindfulness practice, and learned how to restore energy even in the middle of chaos. And that journey led to my first book, Finding Serenity Amid the Chaos. But then the pandemic hit
Mm,
and confirmed what I had already learned. Resilience and well being are not side issues, they are at the heart of business sustainability. Because burnout was everywhere. And that inspired my second book, Balancing on the Edge Resilience Without Burnout. This book bridges science and lived experience, giving a roadmap for building resilience. Because leadership today is not about certainty, it's about navigating tensions.
mm.
And we have to learn not only how to survive stress, but how to grow through it. So, my personal journey combined with my experience as a researcher convinced me that the greatest transformation is not in markets, but in people. And that's why human centric transformation has become my mission.
Well, nothing happens without the people, does it? At the end of the day, you can have the greatest strategy, the most well thought out plan. In most cases, in most businesses, most organizations, it's going to come down to the people to deliver it, isn't it? So
Yeah,
if that isn't functioning and you can't get that to happen,
yeah.
that's when we see all these problems.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because people are the main asset we have, and this is people who bring any strategy to life.
Absolutely, and that this is right at the centre of our mission here at Engage for Success. So I think listening to you doing a bit of research, it's clear to me that your shift into this space and the two books that you've written came from what you were seeing the changes within organizations, sometimes driven by external events, sometimes driven by I guess the focus and the strategy and the attitudes inside those businesses. So let's dig into that, and particularly in this burnout topic
Mhm,
that you've highlighted. When you talk about burnout, Marina, um, what are the main drivers of burnout that you have experienced and you see and have written about at work? And what are some of the things that people are just missing
mhm.
on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, burnout is a systemic issue, and it's not only my experience, but research also identifies six organizational drivers that
Mm,
leaders need to pay close attention to. And the first factor is workload, how much people are expected to do, and whether the demands become excessive to the point of exhaustion. And in this case, of course, it will lead to burnout. Second driver is control and autonomy. Do
mm,
employees have influence over decisions within their area of responsibility? If not, it often creates frustration and also can lead to burnout. The third is rewards, both financial and non financial, such as recognition, meaningful work. And in fact, one of the most common drivers of burnout is when employees feel an imbalance between the effort they put in and the rewards they receive. But there are also other drivers, like, for example, community. It's the fourth factor, community or quality of social connections. In extreme cases, this could be bullying, but even a lack of communication or lack of friendliness can leave people feeling isolated. Fifth driver is fairness, whether people feel they are treated justly. And finally, values, whether there is alignment between the values written on the wall and the behaviors people actually see every day. These factors can look different across companies and employee levels, countries, which is why it's so important to monitor and address them. And doing so, addressing these drivers, it does not just prevent burnout, it strengthens engagement, performance, and loyalty. But of course, it's not only organizational drivers. Alongside these organizational factors, there are also individual ones. That's why organizations should help employees build skills to cope with stress and develop resilience. And they can help them investing in their physical, mental, social resources because in the end, well being is about balance between the challenges we face and the resources we have to meet them.
Mm.
So we have to take care of individual factors and, of course, organizational drivers.
I think it's really interesting because we've been talking about this topic. I mean, it was about before the pandemic, but we've talked about it a lot since the pandemic. And I think what's really interesting in the list that you've just given us of 6 organizational factors is how many of those cross over with David Rock's work on the scarf model, the sort of social triggers here,
Yeah,
and how we react to both threat and reward in those areas. But I'm not sure we're ever going to learn the lesson of workload. We seem to, pile more and more on ourselves and want to get more and more done. And we know in our heart of hearts that trying to do too much means we don't do enough. We don't do the right things, or we're not very productive, or the quality isn't great. But we seem to keep, plowing these things on top of ourselves as organizations, even when we know better, which I think is fascinating. So I love that link between the physical stuff, the emotional stuff, the organizational stuff. So if we have a good understanding, I guess, of what can drive burnout, and I'm sure all of us have experienced fatigue, and tiredness. Few of us, I think, have probably experienced proper burnout, but we understand the full causes of it there. But I guess the individuals struggling with these things and leading to burnout, that also has an organizational hit, right? Organizations
yeah,
suffer as a result
yeah.
of those things. And I know we're talking about it a bit more, Marina, but it feels like perhaps not enough or not in the right ways. What's the cost that organizations aren't seeing here on performance and the bottom line if they ignore this or don't do enough?
Yeah. When people are burnt out, they are less productive, less creative, they make more mistakes, take more sick leave, and are more likely to quit. And what's really important is that burnout spreads. It creates a ripple effect. One disengaged, exhausted employee can influence an entire team.
Mm.
And at the organizational level, that shows up as high turnover, lower customer satisfaction, loyalty, and missed opportunities for innovation, for growth. And the research is very clear. Gallup's meta analysis across industries and countries found that teams in the top quartile of engagement outperformed those in the bottom quartile across every business metric: productivity, profitability, retention, quality, safety, customer loyalty. And I'm sure you know this famous fact that disengagement alone costs the global economy almost 9% of GDP. And as Peter Drucker said, culture is strategy for breakfast. And that's because it's employees who bring any strategy to life. That's why I believe that there is no dilemma between humanity and efficiency, because humanity is a key for efficiency. And I would say that yes, we need digital transformation, we need AI implementation for efficiency, but we also need them in order to free up time for what matters most: listening, coaching, investing in people, and protecting them from a burnout. Because when we take care of people, they take care of the business.
It's funny old stuff, isn't it? Because we've been talking about these topics for 600 episodes, and
Yeah.
a white paper a long time ago. Why why do we think that the numbers are so stagnant? Why have we not learned our lesson with this stuff, Marina? Because the numbers haven't really changed in many, many years. The research has been consistent over the years about what's important. Perhaps some of these things, burnout, stress, have been heightened of our awareness since the global pandemic, and I can't believe we're still talking about it, but we are. Why do you think we haven't learnt these lessons?
Because businesses and leaders still more focused on business results, performance, efficiency, without taking into consideration that well-being of people, it's a key for good performance. So it's still very difficult to implement well-being programs in organizations because it looks like something HR matter,
Mm.
not business strategy. And I believe that maybe if we put people in the center of business strategy, maybe we can change something here.
And it's certainly what we believe here in Engage for Success. Our four enablers are built on that premise. And I don't want to stay in the negative side of the conversation, Marina. I like to try and stay in the positive if we can. So we understand the burnout symptoms. We understand the risks of not really taking this stuff seriously. But let's look at the positive opportunity side that we've got here. You've mentioned some of the figures already, but within this topic that we're talking about today, what do you see is actually working? Where are we getting some of these things right? Um,
Mhm.
where where are we really driving engagement and understanding this well-being thing? And how can we move from the survival mode, which many
Mhm.
people still find themselves into the word
Mhm.
that we love here about thriving at work and finding some real purpose? What would you say to all of that?
Mhm. To understand what drives engagement, I often refer to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Hmm.
His idea was simple: people can only reach higher levels of needs like meaning and self actualization once their basic needs are met. The same applies to employees. First, they need to feel their well being is protected. They need security and energy. Once these needs are satisfied, the next step is helping them find purpose, knowing their work matters, feeling recognized, and having the chance to grow their strength to implement their talents at work. When all these needs are met, engagement rises naturally, and companies benefit from greater creativity, innovation, and long term commitment. Last year, I was a judge at the International Customer Experience Awards
Mm.
in the category Best Learning and Development Program.
Hmm.
I was both inspired and surprised by how deeply investment in people, in their learning, upskilling, career growth translates into business performance. What we saw across many of the winning cases was this: when companies invest in employee development, they see real measurable business impact. So I believe that it's very important to address many needs of people to perceive a person as a whole. That's why the best well-being programs address different types of well-being: physical, mental well-being, financial security, social connections, professional growth. When all these dimensions are supported, people become truly engaged.
Yeah, I think. Well, my interpretation of what you're saying here, Marina, is what organizations really need to kind of get their heads around is that you need a well-being development engagement strategy, not just a series of initiatives. There needs
Yeah,
to be a long-term view
yeah,
about how we care for, develop, and engage
yeah.
the people who are delivering our product, building our systems, building whatever it is, putting the brand
Yeah,
in the hand of
absolutely.
customers. That's what we
Well-being
can do.
culture as a culture,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, 100%, 100%. And we often talk about leadership,
Hmm.
not just on the radio show, but in all of the stuff that we do within Engage for Success. And we've talked a little bit today about the choice, the tension that leaders face between this efficiency and humanity. You mentioned it just a second ago. And a word that keeps coming up in this conversation is around empathy, and leaders recognizing that this is a skill, it's part of emotional intelligence, and therefore we can develop it and learn it in some cases and use it to its best effect. But Why do you think, in all the work that you've done, the books that you've written, I'm sure empathy kind of comes and plays a full part in that. Why is it so vital in
Mhm.
preventing burnout, disengagement?
Yeah.
What roles it play for you?
Yeah, it's very important, and I believe that empathy is a very, very important feature for each leader, because empathy allows leaders to understand not just what employees are doing, but how they are feeling and what they need in order to perform at their best.
Hmm.
And that data supports this. Companies that score high on the global empathy index consistently outperform those at the bottom in revenue, profitability, and market value. And I remember the survey during the pandemic. Qualtrics surveyed employees in 7 countries and concluded that mental disruption, yes, affected all groups, but an interesting fact was noted by the researchers. The quarantine was better tolerated by those employees who were actively communicated with their managers, who showed concern for their health and was interested in their well-being, in their problems, in their life. You see, previously being a good guy was not a profession, but in the new reality, this quality has become critical for a professional manager. So, how does it work? How empathy helps? First, empathy creates psychological safety.
Mhm.
Second, it makes people feel valued and supported. And because everyone is motivated by different things, leaders need to tune into those individual drivers. The old one size fits all employee value proposition simply doesn't work anymore. And I would say that this individual approach is a key to unlock potential of each employee. That's why the role of leaders is changing. They can't just be supervisors anymore. They need to act as coaches, facilitators of change, and designers of teamwork. And I would say that in a world where skills become outdated every few years, this kind of coaching based leadership is essential for building sustainable success, sustainable business. And the empathy is at the center of this transformation, at this leadership that we need now.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with you. I think there's a couple of things in here. I think there is maybe the dilemma that many leaders end up facing is this switch to individual focus, which can feel a bit overwhelming. What? I've now got to have an individual conversation stroke strategy with every single person. I haven't got time for that. I got stuff to do. And but I think this is what I guess modern leaders understand is
Yeah,
to have an employee feel seen, heard, and valued is going to take some level of individual focus, building of a relationship, and understanding, and the use of, like you say, of empathy. So I think this is one of those, I guess, tipping points for the change in leadership that we've seen over the last, I don't know, decade or so, moving forward, is
mhm,
this need for more individual focus and
yes,
relationships. So certainly what I believe in, not everybody does, but I think that that is a focus. And empathy plays a key part in that. But I mean, empathy is one thing in principle. Organizations also need to understand where they are and all the other stuff that you've talked about today.
yeah,
But you have, I think, developed what's the right word? Like a diagnostic tool
mhm.
to do exactly that, help shine a light, find some stuff, see what's going on, see where I'm strong, see where I've got issues. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about how that works and some of the things it's been uncovering for you?
Yeah. I see that business leaders often try to solve problems by looking outward at market opportunities or inward at internal processes,
Hmm.
asking if their systems fit the strategy and operating model. But what's often missing from that equation is the employee perspective.
Hmm.
And very often, the reason why we can't achieve results or succeed in Transformation is again the human factor. That's why we use a short diagnostic tool, survey based, to discover what truly drives or blocks people. And it looks at three key dimensions. First is motivation. Are people motivated to do the work? Ability. Do they have the skills and knowledge for that? And enablement. Do they have the tools, processes, and support they need? Once you identify where the real issues lie, you can focus on solving them. And that changes the equation. Employees are no longer left out of the picture when it comes to business growth. And I believe that employees is not just an HR matter. It's a core business strategy, and we have to eliminate the barriers that prevent people from performing at their best. And yes, we use diagnostic tool in order to identify these real issues to focus on.
And in the work that you've done so far using the diagnostic tool, do you uncover some common things in most organizations, or are you finding that every organization is different? I mean, there's bound to be nuances, but are there any kind of core fundamental things that you see repeatedly missing from the diagnostic or weak?
Of course, it could be different at
Yeah.
different companies, but I can say that, yes, of course, we also confirm that sometimes maybe some processes are not excellent in order to help people to do their work. But most frequently, it could be lack of motivation or sometimes a lack of skills. For example, in order to work with the clients, for example, with B2B clients, you need excellent communication skills. But sometimes people, account managers, are not the best communicator or negotiator. And if we see that there is an issue here, it's easier to implement some programs and upskilling of people, maybe some trainings in negotiation. So we can find some elements in people's skills which could help them by addressing these issues. It will help them to be more empowered in their work. So yes, I would say that processes and some skills of people, especially in communication, in negotiation, and also it could be potential drivers to decrease their motivation.
I was going to say, because one of the four enablers for us is engaging managers, which is about communication and being equipping that middle management layer, particularly with the ability to give stretch and focus and support and challenge effectively. Does that sort of feature in your results as well, the relationship
Yeah,
with that
yeah,
manager? Yeah,
yes, yeah,
absolutely. Um, time's flying away, Marina. I
yeah.
always say I'm surprised at how quickly these things go, but it's because I'm listening intently. Um, Final question, maybe. If there's any body or listening or leaders listening who could still be on the fence or still struggling with this efficiency humanity thing and wondering, really, is this really a priority? Explain to us why you believe that
Mhm.
the human centric approach isn't just a nice to have, it's an absolute must have for sustainable
Yeah,
success today.
yeah. Human-centric business aligns three dimensions: people, business, and society. A profit only mindset destroys the foundations that business depends on. But when an organization put people, employees, customers, society at the center of how they design product, deliver services, make decisions, everyone wins. Employees are more engaged, business perform better, and society becomes stronger. And today, with so many overlapping crises and rapid technological change, this balance is the only way to long-term sustainability.
Well put, very succinctly put indeed. Marina, thank you very much for coming on today and sharing your insights and experiences with us in such a short amount of time. If listeners would like to connect with you, find out more about you, perhaps find out a bit more about the books or the diagnostic tool, what's the best way for them to find you?
The easiest way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. Just search for my name, Marina Bezuglova. You can also find more about my work on website, and my books are available on Amazon.
Brilliant. Love that. Okay, well, that is all we have time for today. So listen up, everybody. Don't forget to visit engageforsuccess.org to check out the show notes and explore all our free employee engagement resources. And don't forget, you can download any of the previous shows to watch back at your leisure. So we will be back at the same time next week. I'm Eddie Gorham, and thanks for listening to Engage for Success Radio.
Engage for Success Radio, raising the profile of employee engagement and shining a light on good practice for people who believe there's a better way to work.